Hello, everybody. Welcome to your Monday edition of the Blood Red podcast, brought to you by the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host, Theo Squires, subbing in for Joe Rimmer because Rimmer Jr. is unwell, I believe, today, and that is a reference to Joe's offspring, not him himself being a very short man.
Wow.
I can say that because he's not
you're
here.
about 2 foot tall.
He is taller than me, but I can say that because he's not here to defend himself. Anyway, joining me today are
I think time you're not supposed to be able to say it, but anyway.
Anyway, joining me today are our Liverpool correspondent, home and away, Paul Gorst.
All good, yeah.
You're all good.
Yeah.
And our chief Liverpool writer, Ian Doyle. I'm sure you're all good as well, as
I'm
much
all
as you ever are.
bevied up.
All bevied up.
Yes.
A bevy of swans
It
we were
is,
just
yeah.
discussing before the broadcast. Well
I've
fitting.
got to admire that 2 foot was boss 2 seconds in.
No, yeah,
Just get him early.
It's
Won't come back.
trademark Squires, that, isn't it? Trademark.
Better hope he doesn't listen.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he will. Maybe he'll send in a question, which brings us on to the fact that, as it is the Premier League winter break, this is a live Q&A special. We've got a number of questions written down already, but if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, sending them in, and the guys here will be happy to answer them, I'm sure, as much as Doyle is ever happy to answer any questions.
God, I was 2 footed me now. Do him.
Gorsty's just so well dressed today and smart. I don't feel like
Is he?
him. Yeah, that's a very nice shirt. It looks like you got that for Christmas or something.
Well, he's 2 foot. Just get on with the questions, Theo.
Oh, no, I'll get it today, aren't we?
I know, yeah. Have you had it?
I quite like that shirt. It's a new one. Anyway, yeah, we've got some questions that have come in, so we'll go straight into them rather than two-footing each other. I'm probably going to get a load of these names wrong with my pronunciation, so I'm quite glad the first one's from someone called Brothers Red on Twitter.
Yes.
And you can answer this one, Gorsty. I'm sure you've already seen this one. It's a nice, difficult one for you. Can Liverpool win the title? And if so, what conditions need for them to exist to do it? Or need to exist for them to
Yeah, I mean, I still don't make them favourites. I think people watching Manchester City on Saturday can see that they're able to bring on Kevin De Bruyne, who's been missing for 3 months, is it? And
It's longer, isn't it? All season.
First game.
been missing all season. He comes on, he scores a goal to get them back in it and sets up the winner with an incredible assist. And I still fancy City to go on that kind of run that you're used to them doing, sort of post-Christmas. So I don't make Liverpool favourites, even though they are currently top. But I think the conditions they need to do it will be just to maybe repeat the first half of the season, and like they have done in 2021 or 2022, just keep an eye out on City's results, and maybe somewhere along the way they will slip up. I think it's a great opportunity for Liverpool. I've said it a few times now to really grasp the nettle and try and bring in the players who they've got for the summer and try and maybe bring them forward 6 months and see if that does have the desired effect of turning a title challenge into a title winning season. But I still think they will keep the powder dry. Still got Europa League to come. Obviously the game against Fulham, haven't we, next week, is it? Or the week after, in the League Cup semi-final.
Next week, yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? You have a weekend off and you just completely lose the
Feels like an international break, doesn't it, at the moment? The fourth round of the FA Cup, so Liverpool, on the whole, are having a superb season. And I think they can win the league. It's just a case of, will City kind of turn on the afterburners as they have done previously, and are Liverpool able to keep pace with the amount of injuries that they've got? But I think, in full fairness to Klopp, he's kind of navigated that injury crisis really well. Hopefully this week or two we'll get 1 or 2 back. We should see Robertson back, should we, Szoboszlai, and go from there. But I think they can. I'm not sure whether they will, and I suppose that's all you can ask for at this stage of the season.
Which brings us quite nicely to the next question. That's from Padraig. I'll probably
Do I get to answer that one?
Oh, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I
as
wouldn't mind
well?
answering it, yeah.
Well, this was going to lead on to that.
Okay,
anyway.
well, what is it? Go on.
It was, do you think City's strength and depth will eventually be a key factor in who wins the title
Right
this
there,
year?
I think you need to pronounce Padraig's name properly there.
Yeah.
I've got the Irish blood of you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Well, in answer to the initial question, Liverpool can win the league. I don't think they will. That's not me being negative. I mean, I put a tweet out on after the game on Saturday, the City game, and just said it's the kind of goal that wins you the league. City are the clear favourites. And a lot of people got really angry with it. It's like, well, what planet are you living on in which City are not the clear favourites to win the league? You know what I mean? And I think that is a goal that I think it's not so much that it just gives them the 3 points. It's that they'll feel as though they've come out of that kind of situation where they've had some injuries. I mean, Haaland's still not been playing, has he? He's going to be out for another couple of weeks. They got Doku back. There's no Stones is out. Kanji's out. I mean,
Grealish has missed a lot as well, hasn't he?
They are not key players for City. Maybe Stones is to a certain extent, but he's missed he misses a lot of games anyway, I think, Stones. But they're players that they count on quite a lot, actually. But obviously Haaland's one. But the main one, as you mentioned, is De Bruyne. He comes back in. I think he came on against Huddersfield in the FA Cup. I think he sets up a goal, didn't he? Sets up at least one. Then he comes on again against Newcastle and scores one, and then sets one up, and the winner. And It's interesting as well. It was Oscar Bob who scored the winning goal, because he's the kind of example of that's part of the reason why City are where they are, because they can call on these kind of youngsters because of the situation at their academy where they've been able to bring players through. They've got certain advantages that some other clubs, well, almost all the other clubs don't have. And that's been a long-term thing that's paying off for them. That goes back to City's strength in depth then. I mean, there was a lot of talk at the start of the season that perhaps they didn't have the biggest squad, which if we've terms of recognisable names, you might be right. But Rico Lewis comes in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, these aren't poor youngsters. These are youngsters that have been brought up in the way that Liverpool want theirs to be. You look at, Curtis Jones, he's one player, Trent's another one. Quanta is obviously the most recent example, but though he obviously had to go out on loan. But these are players who've been in City's academy for a long time. They know what it takes to win. They've seen the example that's been set. So City do have the strength in depth to go on and win it. I'd be surprised if they didn't. However, what are the conditions for Liverpool to win the league? Win 17 of the last 18 games and make sure the one they lose isn't against City. Basically, it's going to be, will City end up getting 90 odd points again? Maybe, maybe not. Would you back them to go on another crazy long run like they tend to do at the end of every season?
I still think they're capable of winning 10 to 12 in a row. I think they've already won 5 or 6 in a row, haven't they?
And again, that's not being defeatist from us. That's just being realistic. That's,
I don't think
the
anyone
situation.
expected Liverpool
Exactly, there's that as well, yeah.
The title challenge at this stage, that they're given the amount of turnover and playing stuff and whatever else. I thought that goal on Saturday, Oscar Bob, bit of a Makeda feel to it.
Yeah,
I thought, genuinely don't think too many people knew about Oscar Bob, outside of the City bubble. I think I've seen him tear Liverpool to shreds in a under-21s game or 18 months ago, so he's somebody who I've always kind of seen and so I remember him, he was good. But it had that feel about it, didn't it? And you mentioned City's strength and depth there. They were able to sell Cole Palmer in the summer for 40 million to Chelsea, and they haven't blinked. And he's Chelsea's best player. Every time I watch him, he's by far
he's an example of they came through the academy. And still, was it £45 million? Something like that. So they're making. They're not. I wouldn't exactly say City is self-sufficient, but they're making themselves a lot more because they've managed to get themselves in that position by all the money they've spent over the past 15 years on the infrastructure and stuff like that.
Well, I'd agree with both of you. City are the favourites. They've got that stronger squad, but I suppose you look at Liverpool's as well. Like 8 of the 10 players who are currently injured or internationals should be back within a month. Their depth is there as well. While you'd obviously like the lead to be more than 2 points at this stage, history says City do claw it back, but Liverpool got the experience of what it takes when City are chasing you down. It's not like Arsenal last year where their fans thought they're going to win it in March time when you didn't quite think they were breathing down your neck, and here they are, Man City are there. Liverpool still got the talents where they could potentially, if they get through this next month, properly go right until the very end. Yeah,
I think Robertson's going to be massive for them, isn't he? He's part of that cluster who won the title 4 years ago now, isn't it? One of the kind of experienced pros in the squad, so I think getting him back will be massive considering he's missed 3 months. Who else? Bosley should be back for Bournemouth. He was kind of hitting, wasn't he, recently? He's got a fighting chance of that. Endo and Salah is just a waiting game, I guess.
Trent's another one.
Trent is still out, isn't he? That's a blow. Who else is that? I'm sure
there's Thiago, there's Doyle,
there's long-term.
Tsimikas is the other.
The only two that shouldn't be back by February, you'd imagine, are Doak and Matip, obviously, who's out for the season. But the rest should be there pretty much from what we're hearing from Pep Linders last week.
Yeah, it's coming at a nice time, hasn't it, this break for Liverpool, with the injuries they've got. I just don't get why they can't spread it across December and January. It seems like no games in January and then they're playing every 12 hours in December. It seems so unbalanced for me.
I think it's just the dates, isn't it? They have to have a League Cup semi-final at some point, and an FA Cup, and the FA Cup's always taking up 2 slots in January. So,
on to YouTube now for our next one from Rabina. Would you take 7 points from the next 3 games, which are obviously Bournemouth, Arsenal, and Chelsea?
Well, the short answer is yeah.
Yeah,
that takes 6. But depending on you see, it's one of these ones. Again, you don't want to lose to Arsenal, but you definitely take 7. Yeah,
I think Liverpool have got to prove a point actually against Chelsea at home, because against United and then Arsenal, these both draws, weren't they? Particularly the United game. United came with the blueprint and it worked to a T. Liverpool really struggled. So I think if Liverpool are to win the league, I think the Anfield form is going to be huge, and it's not going to be a case of avoiding defeat, because draws are no good, really, particularly at home. So I think Liverpool have got to really be looking at maximum points from home now for the rest of the season, which is a tall order. But in that Chelsea game, I think they've really got to exert their superiority over Chelsea, which we haven't seen too much, have we, in the recent fixtures between them? I think when was the last time either of them won?
Yeah, they've always been draws, haven't they? Yeah. I think the other thing about Chelsea is that while they've not been particularly great this season, they've taken points off, I think it's 4 of the top 5 or something, like that. So
They've won the last 3 as well.
Yeah, they know. They seem to raise themselves for the bigger games.
Was the last one there was a winner, Mason Mount, in the pandemic at Anfield?
Could well have been.
Was it?
Couple of cup finals.
There's been 6-7 draws in a row.
So
It's
the
7
cup
draws,
finals,
isn't it?
weren't they?
Yeah.
The 0-0 at Anfield in January, 1-1 in August, the 0-0 in Stamford Bridge in April. Yeah.
2 draws in the title, well, when they were all thinking they were going for the title, wasn't it? It was
Yeah, Lukaku, August bank holiday, wasn't it? Reece James gets sent off. Yeah. So, Liverpool, I mean, I think 7 points from those 3 games would be a good return if the draw was at Arsenal.
Oh, yeah. Even if the wins at Arsenal, it'd be better.
Well, yeah.
Onto transfer business now, as it is the transfer window. Al Silver on Facebook has asked, will Liverpool actually sign anyone this transfer window?
Yeah, it's not looking likely at the moment, is it? We're nearly halfway through January and there hasn't really been a sniff. And we know there are external factors that change the game on that front. That, even with the best will in the world, the most informed of scribes like Ian Doyle sometimes can't predict, like Luis Diaz 2 years ago, which only came about.
which tickled me because that morning I'd done a piece saying they're not signing anybody. And then
Tottenham obviously put their hand in, and Liverpool, it's all hands on deck. But at the moment, nothing really seems like it's forthcoming at the moment, which will be a shame to many, I'm sure. But I haven't heard anything. I don't know if you'd like to
No, it'll be an opportunist signing. It'll be one like Gakpo, like Diaz, to a lesser extent Minamino, players that they like, and then suddenly they realise, well, hang on, we might have to get them in here now in case they go off somewhere else, and or somebody's going to try and sign them. So I would imagine they've got the money, but they didn't have to spend a lot in the summer, didn't they? Funny, Pep Linders mentioned that, didn't he?
He referenced that twice about the backing the club received from the owners in the summer, and I was thinking to myself at the time, I don't think that's a huge backing for a club of Liverpool's size in the summer.
It depends, because they did miss. Don't forget, they did miss out in the Champions League, and I think they've obviously taken. I wouldn't say a gamble. They've obviously said, look, if we can get straight back in, give us this money for these players. And it's looking like they're probably going to do that.
But they got like a third back of it, didn't they, with Fabinho?
They probably wouldn't. Yeah, they probably wouldn't have signed one of those midfielders. Well, they wouldn't have signed Endo for a start, would they? If they knew that Fabinho and Henderson weren't going.
Firmino and all those players going, it did get a lot back on the wages.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah. So I don't think it was a massive kind of backing in the summer, but they've done what they thought was right, and so far it seems to be bearing fruit.
The next question is from Dougie on Twitter. Anything likely to happen with Andre? Now, I'll ask you that one, Doyle, because I know you've shut that down quite a few times already. But here you go. Here's your platform to shut it down again.
Well, it looks very unlikely, doesn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, if they were going to bring him in, they'd have brought him in straight away at the start of January or even before it. Obviously, they had a little luck, didn't they, in the summer when they were not making much ground with Caicedo and Lavia. They ended up getting Endo, and when they went there with Fluminense, or Fluminense as I kept on calling them, Fluminense, they basically said, look, we've got an agreement. It turns out they got an agreement. He's staying with us until we get knocked out of the Copa Libertadores, which they didn't, because they ended up winning it. But it was interesting, wasn't it? He ended up playing against City in the final, and they got. I mean, I know he had the 90-year-old Felipe Melo next to him, but he's not the first player that's been exposed by City in that way. And I think it's just a bit of an eye-opener. What interesting for me is that the other club we've been linked with him for a while is Fulham. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about Fulham, because we've seen that they can, under Marco Silva, when they got a game plan and stick to it, they're actually quite dangerous. But you wouldn't say that Fulham are quite the same lure as Liverpool. And I've got the same. They've probably got more opportunities in terms of playing. And of course, they might have to look for somebody in the long term because of Palhinha, who probably isn't now going to Bayern Munich, and not sure where he's going to end up. But again, he's another player that Liverpool were linked with. Probably a bit too old, wasn't he? Having said that,
for the money.
They haven't said that, for the money, because they did get Endo in, and he's obviously 16.25 million, 30 years of age. I think they were all right playing that, but not 50-60 million pounds for somebody of the round about the same age.
I also wonder how much Thiago's future played in that, particularly because I think there was interest from Saudi Arabia, wasn't it? And Thiago decided to stay put, and I don't know whether Liverpool were looking to cover bases there, thinking, well, if he goes, we really are up the wall there and we need someone And as it transpired, he stayed put and is yet to kick a ball.
It's worth pointing out when you look around the Premier League as well. I don't think many clubs have signed anyone of note apart from Tottenham, really, is it? So it has been quite quiet all around, and halfway through, it's not necessarily something you can properly attack Liverpool for not bringing anyone in.
Well, but the fans will anyway. Some of them.
Yeah, obviously they will anyway. But
does that mean that if it carries on like this means that the transfer window was a draw? Nobody won it.
Goalless draw, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, Tottenham won it along with winning the league in September.
No. Stop 2 foot in Tottenham. That's my job.
Do you want to 2 foot them again?
I don't want to.
No, okay. We have got another name on the rumour mill that's been thrown in. Daniel Patrick asks, any truth in Boubacar Kamara from Aston Villa? Liverpool interested in for the summer? Was that one that was briefly mentioned
it's true.
last
He's
summer?
at Aston Villa.
Well, it's true. It's Aston Villa. But yeah, any interest in him maybe going to Liverpool next summer?
Not aware of that one. I mean, it wouldn't surprise you if he was on a short list of sorts, but Villa will be under no pressure to sell, and I'm sure he's a big part of their title quest, isn't he? You know, we played yesterday against Everton, didn't he? I'm not too sure about that one, in all honesty.
You're taking a Villa player, taking Douglas Luiz, aren't you? He's decent.
But Watkins maybe if you need a striker. Depends what.
You've got 5 forwards. How many do you want?
I'm just saying, if you want a striker.
So now you're 2-footed the recruitment team at Liverpool.
Not at all. They've done an amazing job of revamping this attack, as we've seen.
I do like Watkins. You know,
Yeah.
Villa, fair play to Villa. They've got a really good manager in, haven't they, in Emery, and they've shown how to reinvest when your star player leaves. You know, that Grealish money is
the old Tottenham thing where they didn't do it properly in Liverpool. 2014 with Squires, they didn't do it properly then either.
Next question, it's from big fan Joe Rimmer. I wonder who that is.
Obviously not a fan of you, though.
I don't think he's seen it, because the question is, who is the most exciting young player at the academy that many Liverpool fans won't have heard of?
They won't have heard of.
Well, if they read the Echo, none of them, because they'll have heard of all of them. Yes.
I like Trey Ione. He's only been there a few months, but he's already, you know, he's on the bench for the senior games, and they think massively of him, don't they, at Kirby. Bit of a goal scoring midfielder. He got the winner in the mini derby in September. I like the look of him, and you can see why Liverpool made great efforts to get him in from Leicester, wasn't it?
Leicester,
in the summer, yeah.
It's quite silky, isn't he? It's quite
yeah,
silky, yeah.
He moves
quite well. Yeah.
But like you say, I mean, we cover the youngsters almost as exhaustively as the seniors. So if you read our coverage, you'll know about them all.
We haven't really answered that question, have we? I mean, if you look at some of the players, exciting in terms of what do you mean? Goal scorer Jayden Downs. He literally can't stop scoring. He's at 17 competitive goals this season. I think there's only been 2, possibly 3 competitive games in which he hasn't scored in. It's not like he scored 3 in one and 4 on the other. He gets 1s and a couple of 2s. So he scored at the weekend. They got beat 4-2 at Brighton. The under-21s, by the way, that was on his Premier League 2 debut. It only took him 13 minutes to get a goal. But Brighton had a 15-year-old who scored twice.
Yeah.
I think his name's Henry Howell or something, or Harry Howell, I can't remember. But given what they've done with the likes of Evan Ferguson and people like who I saw play against Liverpool and have a tremendous game a couple of years ago now, I think that Brighton doing well. It's always interesting, I think, covering the youth teams, because there's not quite the pressure on the youngsters to get results. You want to see performance. Although obviously it's a lot better for them if they are winning games, but also you get to see the other teams as well and their players, and you can see exactly. You see players and you go, when you watch that kind of level, a certain amount of time, you get a feeling for which players can make it, which ones might need to do that extra step, possibly go down to the Football League and go up that way. So I think in terms of Liverpool, I know he's not in UK, Gordon. I still think he's great. Yeah. I still think
he just needs a few months.
Yeah,
of football,
I think, and Klopp really likes him as well. Been a tough season for Ben Doak after his initial impact. He obviously got the injury. The interesting thing for him is that he was kind of caught in between being on the bench for the first team and then not getting minutes, then not being able to play for the under-21s because he was needed for the first team on the bench. And I think that's sometimes a problem for certainly it's more the defensive players. So that's why Quansah getting his minutes has been massive for him, because otherwise he wouldn't probably been getting any football whatsoever. Yeah. And I think if you're a forward, you do actually need that kind of rhythm. A forward and midfielder, you need that kind of rhythm. As Klopp said a million times over, players need rhythm. Certainly players in this Liverpool setup. Yeah,
and Klopp said in Brussels about Doak and Gordon specifically that they're our boys and we're not looking to loan them, which I thought was interesting, because a lot of times people say, "Oh, send them off on loan and get them the minutes and all that," but it's not kind of one size fits all, is it, with that model? So Klopp was keen to keep those two very specific wingers at the club and see what they can learn from the likes of Salah and Diaz and whoever else, rather than going down the league and get boosted to high heaven from grizzled veterans in the Football League.
The other interesting thing about that is that historically Liverpool, when they've let the youngsters go out on loan, it's been, well, you're never going to see them again.
Yeah.
You know, they haven't really been loaned out to progress them for the first team, but Harvey Elliott is an exception to that. And I think they've seen what happened there, and he had a full hit of a full season and got the minutes. And I think it was him and Elise, who was at Reading, who's now at Palace, who Liverpool will be, and we're going to get a question on him in a bit.
Not yet.
Not yet, yeah. Who Liverpool have been linked with recently. That they were the two most creative players. I think they were voted the best two players in the in that division that season. Was it the lockdown season, 2021?
Yeah, Elise won Young Player.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
come second.
That's right. And they've looked at that, and Conor Bradley, who had the season at your favourite team, Bolton. He did very well there, and he would have played more.
Yeah, he would.
In the Europa League and the League Cup earlier in the season if he'd not been injured. So the other one we haven't mentioned is Bobby Clark. He's probably the best player of the whole lot, to be honest. I think
we've seen least of as
well.
Exactly.
That's the thing, is that I've never seen him have a bad game at any of the levels he's played at. And when he did get on for the first team against Arsenal, he kicked Declan Rice in the end, which was very funny, and he definitely learned that off his dad.
What I find interesting about the academy level is obviously they made it go to 23s and then back to 21, but Liverpool, they tend to have 19, 20, that's when you're in that team, and then you make the step up.
It's not just them, to be fair. I think it's most teams now. That's why they got rid of the 23s. I think a lot of them realised that the players who were playing at the 23 level, which now 21, majority were 18, 19, possibly some 20-year-olds.
But yeah, you have all these younger players coming through, and you sort of forget that they're as young as they are because they come through so early. And you think they do get a lot of injuries, and that would be easy to be impatient with them.
Well, they get more pressure. They get more pressure on them because of people like us. Because of, not just us, in terms of just the whole. There's an LFC TV channel that shows the games live. I mean, can you imagine that happening 10 years ago, 10 to 15? No one was that interested in reserve team football.
That's why there was the hype over Pacheco and Nemeth, because it only just started showing.
Yeah, so now it's
players like Mushilovsky have probably suffered from that a bit too much.
That's it, because they've seen the expectation and people like that. Yeah.
Next question on YouTube from Vase Vars, whatever you want to say, depending on your pronunciation of flowers, is Thiago.
Vars. We're not in America.
I know, I realised that as I was saying it, so I was trying to cover my back there. Cheers, Doyle.
No problem.
But the question is, will Thiago ever been seen in a Liverpool shirt again?
Yes. Next question. The worry, of course, is that he's out of contract at the end of the season.
Yeah.
They're just kind of protective. A bit like Keita to a certain degree at the end of last season. You didn't see him after the Crystal Palace game. I mean, admittedly, he wasn't very good in that game, but Liverpool had enough people missing for him to at least have been on the bench if he was fit. And he was training for a while, and then he just disappeared off the face of the earth. And we know with Keita that he picks up injuries. Is he injured now still?
No, he's just come back from the injury, and he's got man of the match for Guinea at the Cup of Nations, I think, in their first game, which is very Naby Keita-esque.
Yeah. But Thiago, I mean, let's be honest, he's good enough to he'd be playing some of these games if he's fit, so I would expect to see him, yeah.
I think it's been one of the most disappointing things of Liverpool's season, that the fact that they brought forward his surgery so he'd be fit for this season, and he hasn't played a minute at a time when he wouldn't have been needed as much. He wouldn't have been put through the ringer as much in terms of his body and the physicality of how much he'll be asked to play. He could have just been a nice little sprinkler here and there and coming on and, affecting games, but he hasn't been able to do any of it. And I think by the time he comes back, it might be too late in the day for him to do anything worthwhile, which is a massive shame. But we'll see. I hope I'm wrong on that. But it looks like his. I still think he'll leave the end of the season, whatever happens.
Yeah, he will.
He's a massively high earner, isn't he? And he's the wrong side of 30, and he's injury prone. But
is that just like you?
He is, yeah. Ticking all the boxes, yeah. But just him not being available has just been a massive disappointment.
Back to Twitter, and it's Echo favourite Sam Williams, I think, with the next question. Should Nunez's long-term position be on the left or down the middle? Yeah,
it's an interesting one, that, isn't it? Instinctively, I'd say, well, down the middle, he's a number 9. But then every time I watch him play on the left, he seems to absolutely terrorise them with his power and his pace and his ability just to run in behind. And once he gets down that channel, just puts it into areas where Liverpool can profit, like Cody Gakpo the other night against Fulham. And I actually think when Gakpo signed and Nunes went off to the left in the second half of the last season, I thought he looked to... I thought that was where he was at his best for Liverpool last season. Didn't have the pressures of defending from the front in the way Klopp likes them to do. So it's definitely an option. And with Jota back as well and Gakpo, I think they're both on 9 goals each now for this season. I think it's certainly an option. I don't think it necessarily has to be Diaz now on the left every week.
I don't think he's going to ever have a regular position at Liverpool, in the sense that sometimes he'll be on the left, sometimes he'll be playing as a centre forward. It'll just be dependent on who else is fit and who they're playing against.
And it looks at his form as well. Like Liverpool players do tend to move it around. Like Salah's the only one you can say that is the position that's he plays.
And even then, he sometimes goes up front.
Yeah. I was thinking Sadio Mane. He was the right winger, then he was the left winger, then he was the centre forward. Always changes. Next question's from Ash on Twitter, and that's about Curtis Jones.
Oh.
Unlucky timing for him when he has broken into the team because he had Gino Wijnaldum, Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago, and now McAllister to get past, or has he been rather fortunate because he's had some absolute club legends to learn from? I'd say he's in the first team now, isn't he? He's probably one of the first names in the starting 11.
I would say that. I mean, I've just written a piece about him, basically saying he's one of these players. Klopp likes rhythm, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Which, given the fact he likes heavy metal as well, doesn't really correlate. But anyway. But Curtis Jones is the ultimate example of that. When he gets a run of games, he suddenly makes a massive difference. You saw that at the end of last season. When he came into the team, he hadn't started a Premier League game in 6 months, something like that, when at Chelsea, and he starts the last 11 games, they're unbeaten. Start of this season, gets a minor injury, misses the first two of the first 3 games, gets back into the team, was probably the best player at Tottenham up until he gets sent off. Then he misses 3, then he gets injured and misses another 2. And then he only plays 1 of the next 2 off the bench. So suddenly you can look at it and go, hang on, he's missed 9 games at the start of the season here. And not all through his own fault. But then when he's got back in the team recently, look what he's done. He sets up the goal for 200th goal for Salah, Crystal Palace, gets the 2 goals. I think he had a very good game. I can't remember, was it Arsenal he had a good game? I can't remember. I think in the first half he seems to be one of the better Liverpool players.
West Ham on the cup.
West Ham he got the 2 goals. Got the goal against Newcastle. Fulham. And that was probably his best performance for Liverpool. And he got the goal against Fulham. And he was one of the ones that keeps on going. And I think he's benefited from Gravenberch coming in because it's kind of elevated him a little bit. I mean, I spoke to him in the summer out in Germany, and he's saying, look, I play for Liverpool. This is what it's like. This is what you have to expect. I'm expecting competition for your place every single time. And because you know that if you don't have a good game, somebody on the bench is going to come on and replace you. But by the same token, you also know that if you're on the bench and somebody doesn't have a good game, then you're going to get a chance. So it's all about taking your chance. So it's on the individual player. And he's done 100 games. Has he done 100? Yeah, he's done. He's beyond 100 games now for Liverpool. He's 22. He doesn't regard himself as a youngster. He's a first-team regular. And if Liverpool are to do anything for the rest of this season, I think he'll be playing most of the games.
Yeah, I think the question is probably the answer somewhere in between, isn't it? Don't necessarily have to. Not everyone has to burst onto the scene and be a first teamer at 17. I think that sort of pattern has slowed down a bit over the years. We all remember Michael Owen and Robbie Fowler, don't we? But it doesn't tend to happen as much nowadays, and Jones is a perfect example of that. Even Trent, to a degree. It was only... I even think when Liverpool got to the Champions League final in Kiev, he was still being viewed as very much as a youngster who's just in the side.
He'd only just got out, got ahead of Joe Gomez at right back, and Gomez got injured.
Yeah, so that doesn't really tend to happen anymore. So the fact that he's 22 and he's kind of come through this glorious period of Liverpool, sort of on the fringes, and now over the last 8 or 9 months he started to really establish himself as a proper first teamer. I think he's in an ideal position, and he only signed a new contract late 2022, was it? So yeah, he's just got to carry on doing what he's doing at the moment and stay fit, and I think he's got a really exciting future in this new Liverpool setup.
Trent coming the way he did probably made it more difficult for him because I think he was in that team straight away as a teenager, whereas Jones has had to bide his time a little bit. I think if Trent's not there, he gets more hype. You don't have people on his back as much because that seems like the normal passageway to get in the team.
It's been more competition for places, hasn't it? Let's face it, Trent, once he got in ahead of Nathaniel Klein, there wasn't too many people in his way, were there? Where you look at Jones, and you just mentioned there, Wijnaldum, Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago. The pathway has been a lot more cluttered in the centre of midfield, but I suppose that's to be expected, isn't it? That's where your key players should be.
Well, it has been the Premier League winter break, so no game for Liverpool this weekend. Salah and Endo have been in action at the Cup of Nations and the Asian Cup. I think Salah scored and got an assist. Endo got an assist. The question from Danny Hamilton is, would you rather they go out early of the competition so they're back at Liverpool as early as possible, or do you want to see them win the 2 trophies?
Yeah, it was an interesting question this when I've seen it. I couldn't think of what I'd prefer. I think we saw what it did for Mane, didn't we, 2 years ago when he come back and then he had a superb final third of the season, sort of playing up front, and it kind of gave him the belief to kick on and have a really superb end to the season. So, the thought of Mohamed Salah having a similar impact on him is quite a tantalising prospect. So I think I'd rather go with that over getting him back early and it means he misses 2 games fewer or whatever it is. And I suppose to a lesser extent, Endo. I think Liverpool are a bit stretched in midfield at the moment, so I wouldn't mind seeing Endo back. And okay, Salah is Liverpool's best player, but I just think maybe you get more out of Salah in the long term if he comes back as an AFCON winner, as opposed to him getting knocked out in the group stages and he comes back 2 weeks earlier or whatever.
Well, look what happened with Salah last time when they lost the final. He kind of lost his way a little bit, and also they got beat a couple of weeks later, didn't they? In the World Cup qualifier against the same team, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was like extra time and penalties every time, which is why I hate extra time.
And he played every minute as well. He ran him into the ground.
Yeah. I think, in answer to the question, I think they can both reach the quarterfinals and then be eliminated in non-controversial circumstances. So they can have a disappointment, but they're not massively embarrassed, but they can come back about a week or so earlier.
Would they be back for Arsenal if that happened?
I don't know. I've not looked at it, but I just feel as though that's the case. If they get knocked out in the group stage, then I think certainly if Egypt get knocked out, because they nearly lost yesterday, that would be a bit of a surprise, and I do wonder.
There was 2 shocks in their group, or nearly, wasn't it? Was it Ghana lost as well?
They lost as well, yeah, 2-1.
So that
great defending for that last goal, by the way. Okay, if anybody's seen it, don't do that.
Okay, I've not seen it. Have you seen it, Gorst?
No,
because you notoriously don't like international football and you don't like the FA Cup.
Or defending.
Or defending, yeah. Neither are things that I'm keen on. I have to say as well, Klopp getting kind of taken out of context for that joke he made about Endo and Salah.
I think everybody knows it's a joke now. I think everybody knows it's a joke.
I think it's people deliberately trying to stir the pot there.
But what kind of journalists would do that?
Well, no, it wasn't even journalists. It was just people on social media just deliberately trying to make it sound like Klopp was an idiot or out of order or whatever. But yeah, I think Liverpool might be better served if Salah comes back as an AFCON winner rather than knocked out in the group stages and he's disappointed.
Quarterfinals.
Should I just say semi-finals and split the difference?
No, because if you're going to get to the semi-finals, you might as well get to the final. It's only about 4 days later. So
AFCON's got a third place playoff as well, so it's the exact same finish time anyway. What fun.
Well, then don't say semi-finals then.
I was just being contrary. Anyway, next one from Zarek Singh. Do you think Klopp will extend his contract?
Do you know what? That first started to surface, didn't it, after Liverpool won the League Cup 2 years ago? They won that in late February, and by April they'd signed the contract. So a little bit of a feel-good factor there, and I think he always references the game at City, wasn't it, where his wife was in the crowd, and he went over to them to kind of salute her and the fans. And then they had the conversation in the kitchen later that night saying that how can we leave this? So I just got a feeling the way things are going at the moment, he's got a spring in his step around the training ground. He's happier, much more receptive to certain questions, shall we say. The laugh is back. I think he is very happy with where he is at the moment and the kind of makeup of his new look squad. So I wouldn't rule it out.
I don't think he will. But I wouldn't rule it out.
We've said that the last 2 times, haven't we? That he's going to go at the end of his contract and then he
comes 9 years is a long time.
It's a long time. Yeah. It's a long time for somebody to be at such a high pressure job as well. I think you have to bear that in mind.
As your grandfather now as well, I think that comes into it.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know whether his son lives around here or in Germany, but that could be a kind of unseen aspect of it all as well. Maybe spend some time with the grandkids.
I should put you on your toes and ask for potential replacements. We know how much you love those questions. When you can't
we know how much you like writing these stories.
Yeah.
When was the last time I wrote that story?
Not that one, but just replacing everybody else, especially Mohamed Salah. You're obsessed with getting rid of him.
Yeah, there might be one to say.
I'm the best player. I'm the manager. Best manager you've had in 30 years.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for whoever takes over. I mean, the obvious people. I mean, the other one is obviously Alonso that people are saying, but he's still pretty early in his managerial career.
And if this was 2 years ago, I would have been saying Steven Gerrard. So see how quickly
But
things
you
change.
wouldn't. You would.
I hadn't written that piece at that
Yeah.
And that proved to be spot on.
Move on.
Moving on. This one's not controversial at all. From Mohammed. When are FSG going to leave?
I saw that, and do you know what? I thought I'm going to leave that one out just because I'm just tired of it being a debate. I mean, what's the problem with the owners at the moment? So Liverpool sit as Premier League leaders. Europa League last
100 million
16
in January.
FA Cup fourth round against Bristol and/or Norwich at home.
Anfield Road End.
Yeah.
Well, no fault though, was it?
No, I mean that's out of their control, wasn't it? Again, it just comes back to just spending more in the transfer market at certain times. But Liverpool, you look at their summer work, and you think it was good, wasn't it? You know, it's got them into the position they're in, and Liverpool are looking ahead now to a really exciting second half of the season. You look around the rest of the league, you know, the absolute madness that's happening at Chelsea. Certainly wouldn't want that at Liverpool. The huge question marks and caveats that come with Man City and Newcastle, you wouldn't want that. Everton, look at what's happening there. It's just across Stanley Park. That is a bit of a mess, isn't it? Or more than a bit of a mess. And Manchester United have just been taken over after years and years.
They haven't been taken over.
Well, not taken over, but you know, we're buying from someone who's got 25%. So, is it better the devil? You know, I think it is, with the little asterisks of maybe freeing up the purse strings at times.
The thing about FSG is the big decision they'll have to make is when Klopp does go, because a lot of the success has been because of Klopp. But then two things to that: one, they were able to persuade him to come, and the second one, they were able to offer him sufficient backing in whatever way that he's still here 8, nearly 9 years later. So it's going to depend on what happens when Klopp does decide to go, and then you do wonder where FSG at that point go, well, you know what, it's been a great run. They'll have been there, how long have they been there now? 13, just over 13 years. Yeah,
14 years in October.
So it's going to be 15, getting on to 20 years, won't it, by the time that happens. It's a long time for to be owners, and they might want to just move the club on.
Do you think they'll ask Klopp his advice on appointing a replacement?
They should never do that.
In the same way,
they should just don't do that. They should just, it's on them, because they can say whatever they want, and then they just do one, and then whoever made the decision ultimately is the one who has to carry the can for it.
Next one from Luca. Favourite Liverpool memory in the Klopp era? It's quite a nice one to follow.
Yeah, I mean, I think just being there in the ground when they lifted the league after 30 years, and okay, there were no fans there, and that was a massively sad thing about it all. But I thought Liverpool did that as well as possible as a spectacle, and the fact that me and Doyle were one of or two of 500 odd people in there on the night.
Miles away, like we could barely see it.
It's certainly one to tell the grandkids, I think, that one. So I'll go with that one.
I mean, I've seen them win the league before then, because I'm obviously quite old, with people in the ground as well, but with no fireworks. Can you imagine that now? Somebody winning something with like a load of fireworks going off. Probably the Barcelona game. The end of that, I thought was quite. To be honest, I thought it was quite funny. So I'm going to go with that one.
Let's see, have we got any others on
What's yours?
What's mine?
Yeah, what's yours? Come on.
Mine aren't as good as yours, because I wasn't there for like them winning the league.
But you don't have to necessarily have to be there. It's still your favourite thing.
Let's go for the 2-0 over United. We say it on quite a lot for the Klopp moments or the Salah moments, whatever, just because that's when the crowd go, we're going to win the league, and that's the moment where you knew Liverpool were going to win the league. Hopefully we get a similar moment in a couple of months' time. We shall wait and see. We do actually have a couple more on YouTube which don't follow on as nicely. Conor Bradley is already a better defender than Trent Alexander-Arnold. Discuss.
Okay, let's discuss it. No.
Yeah, no.
Okay. No.
Based on what? Based on a cameo in the cup, or based on the player who's won everything in the last 5 years?
And the same person, this is Floriat Pika, has asked on for your thoughts on Tyler Morton. He's obviously having a very good loan with
goal the other night, didn't he?
He's a player who saw quite a lot of playing for the academy. He's always going to be a footballer. I think the moment for him to be playing for Liverpool is probably past. But I do think that he'll end up having a very good career in the Premier League.
And that's it for your questions. You can obviously watch these back, and if you want to comment on the videos, do, but these two will not be answering your questions. Sorry about that. Before we finish, I have got a little bit of advertising to do. These two have written standalone...
These two?
These two.
Do you mean Paul Gorst and Ian Doyle?
My esteemed colleagues, Paul Gorst and Ian Doyle, have written plenty of things for Mohamed Salah standalone to celebrate his 200 goals for the club. Should I read the cringy description? Let's go for it. There's Mo stopping Salah's feats at Anfield, and the Liverpool Echo are marking his 200th goals for the club with this souvenir of his career to date with the Reds. This brilliant special edition, which can be ordered from anywhere in the world, is packed with pictures, reviews of the Egyptian King's key goals and games, and a comprehensive profile of the player. We also look at where Salah stands in the list of Liverpool legends. It's a must for all Liverpool fans. That goes on sale 2 days from now, so the 17th, Wednesday, and you can already pre-order your copy via the website at reachshops.co.uk/Salah. I believe it will have a link in the description underneath this video when it goes out later, and for wherever you get your podcasts. Do you two want to have a little say on what you've written for that, or are you quite happy
No,
to
just
leave
buy
it
it and then you'll find out.
Buy it,
Exactly, yeah. There's definitely enough to
yeah.
get you sick. There's a lot in there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a player we've written about, well, for so much on, haven't we? For years now. He's been at Liverpool since 2017. But, yeah, it does mark a little bit of does need a little bit of a mark, and doesn't it? 200 goals. Doesn't happen very often. So, yeah, we've written plenty about Mo Salah, and given that we've said and written so much about him, I still think we've done well to find some new fresh angles and takes on the Egyptian King.
So buy it.
There you go, you heard that. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back again later this week. I believe it'll be Friday, where we'll talk about what's the next game, Bournemouth, isn't it?
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll have lots to say after the winter break where nothing has happened. Anyway, I've just lost my trail of thought. Catch
Just
you all
say
later.
goodbye, Theo.
Goodbye.